Northwoods League baseball is almost here, and this is our first step to getting right back to Rivets Stadium. Welcome to the first episode of Rivets Rundown. My name is Colgin Herschel, the voice of your Rockford Rivets. Alongside me is Jessica Chemnitz. Jess, welcome to the Rivets. Welcome to the Screw Crew.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to join you guys. I'm a huge baseball fan. I always have been, and I really love working in sports. And close to home, what can I say? It's going to be a fun summer.
We'll get into some introductions, reintroduction. Jess, I'm just going to let you continue with your introduction. Coming from Michigan State, a local Chicagoland native. Let's hear more about you.
Yeah, I'm a third year sports journalism coaching student at Michigan State, like you said, and I also run for the club cross country and track team. And sports have consumed my entire life. I currently work as a photographer and broadcaster for Impact and Spartan Sports Report. But the main thing I do sideline reporting and color analyst stuff for Big Ten Plus here at Michigan State. And I love baseball. I'm a huge Cubs fan. I practically grew up at Wrigley Field. So it's going to be a fun summer being able to just surround myself in baseball and work with you and everybody at the Rivets crew.
And we're so happy to have you. It's going to be a great summer all summer long. And as for me, this is my second year working with the Rivets, first full year. I came in for relief for the great Ian Plaskoff last summer, the second half of the Northwoods League season. Got the opportunity to work alongside Andrew Bellison in your role right now, Jess, as the color commentator. And this year they call me in from the bullpen, getting the starting job right now for the play-by-play man for the Rivets. I'm a sophomore right now. Will be a junior at the end of the summer. I'm at Arizona State University, and I've worked in baseball pretty much the entirety of this year and last year as well. Finally getting an opportunity to dip my feet into the NCAA team for Arizona State. So it's been a great opportunity to actually work with some NCAA baseball, and obviously last year was my true introduction with the Rivets and getting just an opportunity to work with the amazing, great people who are out at Loves Park and Rivets Stadium. So it's going to be a great season, a great summer. And this year we have a new manager at the helm of the Rivets. Jess, can you tell me a little bit more about him?
Yeah, so Bob Koopman's coming in 28 years of collegiate coaching, 20 with Rockford University. So Rockford native, he's not coming from too far. He was a field manager for the Rockford Riverhawks, the Frontier League from like 2002 to 2004, then returned back from 2008 to 2010, compiling a total winning percentage of .524, and that includes a Frontier League championship. So he's very familiar with the Rockford area, and it's going to be really nice to have a Rockford native with our team this year. And he's no stranger to turning programs around. I mean, he's frequently setting records, building up programs starting at Ashford, and he's very into the baseball world himself, playing at Harper College, drafted twice by the Chicago White Sox, and then signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates, pitching for them for their minor league team for about 3 seasons. So he is going to be a very strong field manager this year and hopefully can turn around some of the things that you guys struggled with last season.
Yeah, he's got the pedigree, especially in the Rockford area. He's kind of been that guy when it comes to Rockford University. He's been there for 20 seasons with those guys out there, and it's going to be a different vibe having him come in from last year. Last year, we had a couple of coaches come through the Rivets organization, so having that same voice throughout the entire summer is going to be really important for a lot of these guys who are coming in and playing with a lot of new players and sometimes just in a completely new team in the summer. It'll just be really good for them to have that consistent voice in the room to guide them through the process.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the biggest issue last season wasn't like the talent on the roster. Everybody who's coming into the Rivets last season and this season are extremely talented and good at what they do. It's just consistency. I mean, you guys would sweep some teams. For example, the Royal Oak Leprechauns, you guys swept at the beginning of the season and then got swept further down the season. And part of that would have to be the ins and outs and the discon- deconsistency within the program. So just having one strong center feature the entire season is definitely going to aid in building a program back up and a very successful summer season.
Yeah, and it was kind of that inconsistency that you talked about. We'll talk a lot about last season throughout this first episode, but just when the team got off to a nice start, when they got off to a roll, maybe a couple games in a row, it just kind of felt like it only lasted for those few games, and they were back to losing a couple here and there. The biggest memory that I have from last season, when kind of thinking about last year, was my first few days, and the staff can all tell you it was probably the craziest 2 days of the entire season. And for me to have that introduction, it was July 3rd and 4th. So for those of you who don't know, the July 4th celebrations at Rivets Stadium are some of the best in the Northwoods League, and I would put it up there with some of the best in baseball. It is one of the craziest things that I've ever seen. That the fireworks show is ridiculous. Unfortunately, this year we do not have July 4th at Rivets Stadium, but hopefully the festivities will still be able to be continued either the previous day or following after July 4th. But they had a couple of good games against the Battle Creek Battle Jacks. Were able to put together some good comebacks, some good wins, and then it just kind of felt like not back to their old normal, but just weren't able to get back to that feeling of success from those couple of days. They would have a couple here and there, but it just really felt like a lot of that inconsistency that you talked about, Jess, and hopefully Bob can bring that in to the Rivets, because I mean he's had such an illustrious career for coaching, and um, hopefully with Bob and with the rest of the Rivets team that is coming back as well as coming in, they'll be able to help out with that kind of consistency that you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, if you quickly take a look at his resume with Rockford University right now, he has built the program into a title contender, 3 conference titles, 2 conference tournament titles, and won 27 games in a season 4 times. But set the school record in 2007 to 29 wins. So he has a really high ceiling, really successful program, and 4 players have signed professional contracts under his coaching staff. And as of for April 5th, he has the best winning percentage in the NACC conference. So brings a deep, strong understanding game of baseball, very strong, proven track record, and it's going to be really cool to see what he does this season. And I'm very excited to see that 4th of July celebration.
Yeah, it's truly special, and I'm gonna throw a question at you, Jess. You're seeing this season from a lot of the standpoint as the fans coming in with uh, not as much prior knowledge to the team as some would have. So, what are some of the things that you're excited? Some of the things you're looking forward to as the season gets going?
Yeah, I mean, I love a great underdog story. And right now, what I'm seeing is the Rivets are going to be the underdogs, especially with the Great Lakes East. We have some really strong teams, especially the Traverse City Pittsbitters. And being from Michigan, I hear all about them. I have a lot of friends who work for them. So it's going to be fun to work a little bit of rival with some of my friends, going to have some conversations going. But I love a good underdog story, and I really think seeing this from afar, it could prove to be a very shocking season for the Rivets. Lots of talent coming in, and I know we're going to get into some of the key returners in a little bit, but it's going to be really fun to witness kind of hopefully a very strong upward trend within the winning record and maybe even compete with some of the top teams in the Northwoods League.
Yeah, and you talked about those rivalries. I had the opportunity to travel up to Kalamazoo for Arizona State and Western Michigan hockey. And just seeing all of the Kalamazoo Growlers logos plastered everywhere, it kind of put a disdain in my heart. And I just knew going into that rivalry was definitely going to be ignited, whether it was at Rivet Stadium or up in Kalamazoo. It was interesting just to be up there and see ever like the support for that team up there, because outside of the University Western Michigan and the Kalamazoo Growlers, there's not a whole lot of sports fandom in that town. So that's kind of the culture that the Northwoods League brings together. They place all of these teams in places that don't necessarily have fandom for sports. You mentioned Traverse City, Kalamazoo, Royal Oak. I mean, Rockford is lucky enough to have a couple of teams. You can mention the Ice Hogs for hockey and along with other teams, but the Northwoods League places these teams in locations that don't necessarily have a major sport, or a professional sport, and it gives these people something to rally behind, something to cheer about during the summer.
And some of these smaller teams, I actually think are more fun. I mean, as a frequent visitor to Wrigley, I love a Wrigley Field atmosphere, but some of my most favorite games ever, Chicago Wolves hockey games. I know we're not talking about hockey, but Chicago Wolf hockey games are just super entertaining to be around. And you're mentioning Kalamazoo. Whenever I have a couple friends down at Western Michigan, and they frequently talk about the Kalamazoo Growlers and how they're excited if they're staying over the summer to go watch some of those games. So the Northwoods League runs deep. I hear it all the time in Michigan. There's a lot of teams out here, and it's those smaller teams, and I don't even like saying smaller teams, but those tend to be the more personable, more fan oriented teams and bring just a sense of community with people from all over. So it's going to be really, really cool to just be able to work in that environment this time.
Yeah, and it should be a great season. I mean, we have so many good returners coming back, and we'll get into some of those right now. But the one I want to lead off with is Cooper Hinson. Coop is one of my favorite players from last season, so I'm so happy that he's getting to come back and put on the Rivets jersey again from Marshall, a sophomore, and he's actually having an unbelievable season right now. I'll pull up his stats in a second, but just like what do you know about Cooper from what you've seen maybe on Instagram or online?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a little bit of him at Marshall. He's actually come up on my recommended for like one of the Marshall things, and I was like, wait, I know this name. 31 games played so far. I did this yesterday, so everything should be up to date. 31 games played so far, 14 runs, 41 hits, 2 home runs. I mean, really strong hitter, somebody that you like to have on your team, very reliable at the plate. Think he's going to be a really strong returner, going to be much better than last year, with especially now more college experience coming into this. So I think he's going to be a really key returner, and maybe see him at the top of the lineup this time.
100%. And he was one of those guys last season. He was the guy in a lot of situations where you just knew something big was going to happen with him. And especially now that he's kind of turned into that guy at Marshall. He's played 32 games, started all of them, so he's been a mainstay in the lineup for the Herd, and just his less so about his stats and more so about just the kind of person he is. He just brings that level of energy, that level of passion to the game, and he's just an overall and a great teammate just to have. And there's so many memories that I remember of Cooper coming up and just putting balls over the wall that were in huge spots, and he delivers when it matters most. Um, just one of the big games that I saw from his season so far was he went 7 for 14 in the series against Georgia Southern with 3 RBIs, which is, if I'm coming from Arizona State, that's Landon Hairston numbers right there. Who's having an unbelievable season for the Sun Devils, but uh, Coop has been hitting so well for the Herd out in Marshall, and I can't wait to see what his second season with the Rivets looks like.
Yeah, and those are the best teammates to have, the ones that just bring the energy to the plate, because the biggest thing that carries teams forward is just energetic people and those who lead the chants and are always the first ones out of the dugout to give high fives after a big moment, and the loudest ones, just because sports aren't anything without energy. And if you have an unenergetic team, you're not going to have a successful season. So even if you have a couple of people leading the charge in that way, you're going to have a successful team and a successful season. And these are college kids coming to play for the summer. They want to have a memorable season while building up their stats. So the way that he is able to carry that energy and just still have fun is going to be a key role, even if stats aren't the biggest thing. Like, the key role is just bringing the energy and being the people's person. So it'll be really fun to see more of that energy this season.
Yeah, and we've talked about his hitting stats. I think it's worth mentioning, even though he's an outfielder, he's yet to make an error this season. So he's solid defensively. He's solid at the plate. He's just a solid player overall, and it's really so exciting that he's coming back. I mean, myself, along with the other interns from last year, can tell you just how awesome it was just having him around in the ballpark. It was truly special just to be able to watch him. But another guy that is coming back for the Rivets is Tommy Townsend. Jess, what can you tell us about him?
Tommy Johnson, I think, will be the strongest returner we are going to be talking about today. I mean, transferred from Butler to Xavier, so he's in a new environment currently, but that has not phased him at all. He has so far played 28 games, 10 runs, 14 hits, 3 home runs, 7 RBI. Very, very strong. But with Rockford, he was a captain last season and ranked among players with 30 or 43 games played, excuse me. I think that was the fourth most I noticed. I mean, super strong, and he has an incredible resume down at Butler as well as previous school. So I think he's going to be the biggest key returner for the Rockford Rivets this year. It's really good to have him back. He was very reliable last season, continues to be extremely reliable this season with Xavier. And that's a really important thing to realize. Going from a different school is a very hard adjustment. So the way that he's able to carry that momentum from one school to another, being in a completely different environment with different coaching staffs and different team members, means that he is very consistent and very confident in himself. And that's a very important thing to notice.
Yeah, and last year with Rockford, he left in the middle of the season. I believe his coaches at Xavier pulled him. I could be wrong about that, but when he was there, he was so reliable. He was always batting near the top of the order. He was always coming up in big spots for the Rivets. This year, he's taken a little bit of a step back at Xavier. His batting average has dropped a little bit. He's uh, hitting not as great as he was with Butler, but he's still going to be that guy for the Rivets. I mean, I've said that with Koopy. He's going to be another one as well that he's going to come in and provide that stability in the lineup for as long as he's in the Rivets lineup. He'll be able to bring in that kind of energy that we've always talked about, and as well as just that consistency with the bat and really be able to put up numbers that are going to help the Rivets down the line, which should hopefully favor Rockford, especially against some of these teams that have so many good players. Having a couple of guys like Coop and Tommy in the lineup will really be able to help the Rivets with that kind of consistency that I felt like was a little bit lost last season.
I agree. And I mean, we could take a look at his Butler stats really quick. I wrote a couple of key ones down. He had 11 home runs, and he led the team by recording multiple RBIs in 13 games, scored 31 runs, started 39 out of his 44 games. So while he has taken a little dip, it is also still the beginning of college baseball season. I know that's like really hard to think about because they've been playing since February, but now in April, and from what I see at Michigan State, this is when the games really pick up and really start mattering. So it will be worth keeping an eye out to see if he's able to pick that up and keep that going. And so far, I mean, yeah, they've taken a little bit of a dip, but so far, still very strong, very good to have him come back. So it's going to be exciting to see what else he brings to the team. And it's really good to bring returners back because they're familiar with how Rockford rolls, the facilities, and he'll be a key person to lead the newcomers when they come in.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that Tommy can get back to his playing from last season, and he's coming into his third season now with Rockford, which is unbelievable to get that consistency over multiple years rather than just going from one year to another and then potentially leaving after that. So having those familiar faces that are so familiar coming from a third year player is so big, especially in the day and age that we're seeing right now with collegiate athletics where players are switching teams every single season trying to get a better opportunity. It's not like that as much in the Northwoods, but you still see players going from team to team quite often. So just having a player like Tommy be able to stay in the lineup, stay with the Rivets for now his third season is going to be a real treat for us to watch.
And it shows just his commitment to programs. So I think that's a guy that you really want on your team. You because like you said, like players switch all the time looking for better opportunities, and maybe he could have a better opportunity elsewhere, but he chooses to stay with Rockford, and I think that speaks volumes to Rockford's program, his mindset. So it's going to be really nice to just keep seeing what he brings to Rockford, what he's going to bring to this season, and potentially one more season.
Yeah, and another guy that will be coming back. It was a shorter stint for him, but Joe Forbes from Arizona, his freshman season this year, he's only got one game played down in Tucson. Obviously, I've had the opportunity to watch the Wildcats a couple of times now, um, both on TV and live at Phoenix Municipal. And I was able to see his brother Jackson quite often in their most recent matchup. I believe it was on Monday that they came out here, and we don't know if Jackson's coming back quite yet, but his brother Joe is. He played 10 games last season with Rockford. He was pretty solid in those 10 games, a 3.79 batting average with 9 RBIs. And Joe, I didn't have the opportunity to speak with him too many times because he was only here for 10 games, and I was coming in, coming out. But the one conversation I had was we talked about Arizona, we talked about Arizona State Arizona rivalry, but he was laughing throughout that. He gave me the bear down sign, so it hurts just doing that myself. But he's another guy that was really kind to everyone. Hopefully after having now a little bit of experience in college, I mean, this is only his freshman season. He's only gotten into a few amount of repetition, but that'll hopefully bring some traits to the plate for the Rivets, and also behind the plate as he's going to catch for the Rivets as well.
That's really cool that you see players coming from all over. Really cool that you got to meet him. I wish I got to meet some of these players before they come in, but I don't blame people for trying to stay away from the Midwest as things get a little crazy out here. Our fields flooded, so we weren't able to play like 10 games. So wish I got a little bit more interaction with players, but don't blame them from staying far, far away and down in Arizona. It's really nice. But before he played for Arizona, he was ranked the number one catcher by perfect game in the state of Arizona, which is an incredible achievement. He played in the 18U Best of the West Fall World Series, and they won that back in 2023. 74 varsity games with very strong hitting as a catcher. And he also played in the 2024 area code games with the Cincinnati Reds, which is a really cool thing that I really wanted to know just because that was before he even went to college. And now he's in college and he's doing pretty well. I mean, as a freshman, we don't see them play as much just while they get used to the college environment. But it was really cool to see that he was playing for the Rivets before going to college because that gave him some of that confidence and some of that experience before he went down to college. And that was probably very intimidating because playing with a bunch of kids who were already went through college and now coming to play for the summer, they have a little bit more of that college experience, but it helped them learn, and you can see some of that learning translate while he's playing with Arizona.
Yeah, and it's really rare to see freshmen get into games in the NCAA. He's only played two this season, so that's not much of a surprise being a freshman. But just getting that not even the game action, just being in practice with these guys, getting to train with players who are going to potentially go on to the MLB and have great seasons, and just see the overall just level of compete at this level really helps players out. I remember last season being able to cover Arizona State. Landon Hairston only made it into a handful of games, but in those games that he was playing, he was really good. And that was kind of just a glimpse of what we are seeing this season with the Sun Devils. But it's those small amount of experience that you can really translate onto the field, especially when you then come back in the summer. You're like, okay, I remember some of these things from my season. I remember these guys competing. And that's so important because you can then translate that compete level into your own game.
Exactly. And I mean, a freshman even seeing playing time is a big deal because they have so many other reliable players who've probably been with them with multiple seasons and they're consistent and the team knows they can trust them. So by putting a freshman in, that's a lot of trust from the coaching staff to be like, okay, here's your chance, go out there. And him being able to go out there is definitely something that he's going to take to heart, take all those lessons and use them moving forward, and then translate those skills to Rockford, pick up some new things this summer, and then bring it back to his next collegiate season. So it will be very, very cool to see his growth from last season to this summer. And he's going to be a really strong catcher for us again.
Yeah, and the final player that we will talk about returning is going to be George Goriotis, the right-handed pitcher. Yet another guy. I mean, it's so hard to talk about these guys and not mention their personalities and just how good of people they are. George is another example of that. Currently, right now, he's playing out at Edgewood University out in Madison, Wisconsin. So far on his season, he's had 8 appearances, 15 innings pitched, allowed just 20 earned runs with 9 strikeouts. So he's got a 12 ERA. It's been kind of a struggle in terms of the statistics, but he's got a 2-1 record. So when he comes in with those game-winning opportunities, he comes up clutch, and that was very prevalent last year with the Rivets. Is he came into those situations and he was able to get the job done when they needed him, and I expect a lot more of the same from George here this season.
I mean, he's used as a relief pitcher. Had a 5.23 ERA last season, 31 innings pitched, um, 21 strikeouts, and he didn't start. So those stats as a relief pitcher are really strong, and I think it's going to be a really good thing to keep an eye on having a returning pitcher because that's going to be another consistent piece to the Rockford Rivets as we have multiple pieces now across the entire field that are returning and understand how this program works and how the whole setup is. And while they'll have a new coach, it's going to be nice to have those returning faces kind of interact with each other and show the newcomers around. And you mentioned all of their personalities. It's really great to hear that they're all really friendly, and that's going to be very, very helpful for both the staff and the players that are coming in. So it'll be really cool to see what he does. Maybe he'll start, maybe he'll continue being a relief, maybe he'll be a closer. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how it plays out. But having a returning pitcher, especially as strong as him, as you see his strong resume from last summer, is going to be a really, really crucial key to us this season.
Yeah, and unless you're tied really close with the team, you never really know what the coach's mentality is going to be. So when you have a new coach coming in like Bob, we don't know what he's going to use in what situation. We don't know what he's going to want to do, and that's what we're going to start to figure out as the season nears, as the season gets kicked off. So we might see some of these players shifted into roles they're not typically used to. We might see George start a couple of games, even though he isn't typically a starter. You just never know what a coach is going to want to try out, and just with the course of a season, you never know what's going to happen. Some of these players might be thrusted into roles they're not typically ready for or typically used to. So that's just kind of the nature and the beauty of the Northwoods League is all of these players get opportunities that they typically wouldn't normally have that they now get to experience and kind of test out in a league that matters a lot to them. It matters a lot to the fans, but in the grand scheme of things is really a developmental league to get them ready for the next level, to get ready for NCAA baseball and potentially pro baseball as their careers go on.
Exactly. And you see it in the MLB all the time. I've seen a couple of instances on the Cubs where players played one position last season and then come into the following season in a completely different role. Like so it's really helpful to come into the Northwoods leagues, and it's really important for the players to learn how to utilize other positions because they might not be playing that position all their life. They might be playing shortstop, for example, all 4 years of college, and they get drafted by the MLB and go, maybe you'll be better at first base or third base. And if you don't get that experience, maybe you get thrown into the fire right away and you're like, oh my gosh, and then your stats don't look as good. But if you get that experience with the Northwoods League or any other league similar and say, get to try out 4 to 5 different positions, and I know that's a lot. Maybe it would be closer to 2 or 3 different positions in the season. Now you kind of have a better understanding of what works, what doesn't work for you, or how this one position translates to another one. So it's very, very important for these players to learn how to be versatile because if they're going to the MLB or even a higher level, they're going to need to learn how to be flexible with positions because it happens all the time in the MLB. It happens occasionally in college, but if you want to play pro, that's what you got to learn. So it's going to be interesting to see how the season shakes out. I think we could see a couple of switch offs throughout the season with certain players, but it'll be cool to see how they adapt and how they react to these certain situations that they're thrown in. And Bob, I know, will have some pretty good ideas of what he wants to do and switch up throughout the season. So should be fun. It's going to be a very adaptable and learning type season for most of these players, but I think it's going to end up to be An underdog story, like I said earlier.
And it's great you mentioned that point of switching positions because last year we saw it a couple of times towards the end. It was Lance Middleman and Will Paxton who were coming in and pinch hitting, designated hitting a couple of times throughout the season, the typical pitchers. So that was really fun to watch. I mean, Will Paxton had that game where he came in and he had his first at bat of the season was a double and was just hilarious to watch. Just the his teammates' reactions and just be able to be a part of that was really special to see. But I really liked how you mentioned that underdog story because I feel like that kind of encapsulates a lot of the Rockford community and what they strive to be is a lot of times it's that underdog story and having that to kind of rally behind and not to shout out our boy Rally, the mascot of the Rockford Rivets, but it's a symbol of the city of Rockford and it's really great to be a part of because everyone knows that Rockford Rivets are not going to be the best team in the Northwoods League every year. It's just not going to happen. It never happens for any team. But when they have those moments of really, really impressive baseball, because they always do every single year, the city rallies behind them. They really come to the games and really support this program. And bringing in a guy like Bob, bringing all these guys back, are just going to fuel that energy a little bit more for the Rivets this season.
It's going to be a pretty strong season for Rockford. It's going to be really fun to see just how everything plays out. And I noticed you talk about that they're not going to be the best team in the Northwoods League every season, but sometimes they beat the best league in the Northwoods team. And then all of a sudden, for one game, you are the best team in the Northwoods League. I noticed you guys beat the Traverse City Fitters last year, and I would have loved to see the reaction to that. I'm not sure exactly where they sat at that moment, but those those one games, it's baseball. Anything can happen. I use the Cubs as an example all the time when I talk about it with my dad. Like they can't win every game. Some of the best teams in baseball lose 60 games a season. So upsets happen, things happen for a reason, and you never know what's going to happen coming into a season, especially if rosters aren't finalized, especially in the Northwoods League. You don't know what's going to shake out for each team. You have no idea what's going on behind those doors until everything's publicly released. So until we see kind of everything and everybody in gameplay, it's anybody's league.
And the Northwoods League is going to kick off in just under a month. I know everyone's excited. I'm so excited. I've been thinking about opening day for the last 4 months, it's felt like. So we're so close. We're almost there. Just hold on to your hats for a couple more weeks, and we'll get right back to Rivets Stadium, get back to Loves Park, and we'll have a fun festivities for a few months for a full 36 games at least at Rivet Stadiums, which me and Jess will bring you all the coverage for that. But for this first episode of the Rivets Rundown, my name is Colgan Herschel. Jess has been so great with us. We're so happy to have her. It's going to be such a great year with the Rivets. Jess, is there anything else you want to add before we close this one out?
I just want to say I'm excited to be a part of this community. I'm very excited to be a part of the Screw Crew, and I think it's going to be a great summer. I'm excited to work with you. And yeah, I'm really excited to get things started, get things rolling. I've been thinking about it for a while. Every time I've been covering baseball, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be months and months of just baseball. So very exciting, very fun to see how everything's going to shake out. And keep in mind the underdog story.
And we can't wait to see all of you out at Rivets Stadium. So long for this first episode of Rivets Rundown. We'll see you next time.